Welcome to another episode of the S.E.M podcast. Jack Bryce here hosting, maybe joined later by Zack, Hewlett, and today we have Alek Gilmore with us. So welcome, Alek.
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Where are you calling from today?
There's Zack. So I am calling from Wyoming. I currently live in Wyoming.
All right.
Yeah. A bit different from Arizona, that's for sure.
A little bit.
Yeah.
You can wear a coat there. That's like
Dude, that's all I do is wear coats and jackets and long sleeves, man. So very, very rarely am I in a t-shirt here.
Cool. All right. Well, I don't know how many of these you've listened to, but our format is we talk about how you got to Scotland, how you got the call, any story leading into that, and then we skip over the mission to see what you've been up to since then, the last 20 years about. And then and then we'll go back and talk about the mission. So start us off with how you ended up in Scotland.
Man, it was crazy. So I actually was not planning on serving a mission. It was one of those things where, most of my life I talked about, serving a mission, but deep down, I never thought like it was for me. And so after high school, I went to Dixie State. Now I think it's called Utah Tech now. I think that's the official name of the school now.
Yeah.
But so I went to Dixie, and it was funny because during spring, so I was trying out for the football team. I was on the spring team, and during our practice, like I was, the biggest, the fastest, the strongest I've ever been in my life. I'm like, I'm going to play football, find a career, and then just kind of go from there. And I remember one day, right before practice, I made up in my mind that I was going to call my parents after practice and say, hey, I'm not going to serve a mission. I'm just going to play football and then start my career. Now, keep in mind, I've played football since I was 8 years old, tackle football, and never sustained any major injury in my life. I've had nicks and cuts and bruises and dislocated fingers, but that was like the extent of it, right? And so went to practice, had an amazing. It was a great practice, and that happened to be the week of our testing. So we tested our 40, tested our bench, our squats, like all that stuff. And so after practice, me, one of the other running backs, I was a running back, a couple wide receivers, and the quarterback, we decided to stay after and then just run extra sprints, trying to get our 40 time down and, get off the block quickly. And so we can just increase our time or improve our time rather. And so I was first up, and I was warm, I was loose and fired off. And I just remember running the fastest I've ever ran in my entire life. It was just like the wind was just blowing so quickly. I was like, holy cow, I can't believe I'm running this fast. It was awesome. And I felt a tight, my right leg tighten up, and then I felt a snap. And then I snapped my hamstring in half.
Oh,
and I rolled on the track, and I was like, no way did that just happen. Like, there's no way that happened. And sure enough, tore my hamstring, and I was out for the season. And so when I was laying in the hospital, I sat there, I was mad, I was upset. But I was like, man, well, maybe there's something to this mission thing. Maybe I should probably serve a mission. So I really sat and I pondered, and I felt like I should. So after the year had finished, I went back home, and I was like, yeah, I think I should probably serve. And so I went to my bishop, and I said, all right, I want to serve a mission. And there are some things I did in college that wasn't in alignment with the gospel, to say the least. I did some things I probably shouldn't have done. And because of that, I had to wait an entire year before I could go on my mission. And again, it was like another setback, and I was upset, I was mad, and but I waited that whole year. I really prepped. I got rid of a lot of things in my life. I cut a lot of people out, and so after that year's time, when I felt like I was ready to go, Bishop thought I was ready to go. Got my calling to Scotland. I'm like, let's roll. Let's make it happen now. And so that's how I got to Scotland.
Cool. And when did you get your call? What was the year, month? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was right before my birthday. So it was like a month before my birthday, I believe. So to April, May. It was April of. Is that right? No, that's not right. It was sometime in 2002. Where's it, dude? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's anyway. So I got it, and I actually had to wait another 6 months to actually go on my mission. So it was,
man.
yeah. So it was crazy.
So you got to the MTC what month then?
It was June
of 2002.
Yeah. 2002. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So we'll fast forward a little bit. Went home 2004.
Mhm.
Tell us about what you've been up to since then. Tell us about your family and whatnot.
Yeah, man. So since I've been home, I can't even believe it's been 20 years. Like when I think about that, it's crazy because when I was so my first area was the Isle of Lewis on Stornoway, and I remember like one of my first sacrament meetings there. There was a guy from Utah. He was just returning back to Stornoway. He's like, yeah, I've been off my mission for 20 years. And I remember like, dude, you are so old. Like 20 years? Are you kidding me? And here I am, like 20 years removed, man. It's crazy. But yeah, I've been married for 16 years. Next year will be 17. We have 4 amazing kids. My oldest is 13. Then we have an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 6-year-old. So my 3 oldest are girls, and then our youngest is a boy. So busy family, man. Really, really busy family. We're really involved in a lot of things. My 3 girls, they were involved in gymnastics for a very long time. In fact, all 3 of them were state champions in gymnastics. So that was really cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we had a trifecta. It was really cool. And then my son has kind of been just playing the little brother role for the time being, but hopefully, a couple of years we'll get him into football and start his athletic journey. But yeah, I think since I've been home, I've had a lot of different opportunities to grow. Right now I'm a director in a company. We do a lot of like real estate investing coaching. So I help out with that, help with like the whole sales process, and it's awesome, man. I really, really enjoy it. That's one of the things, like one of my big passions is real estate. I do a little bit of investing as well. And I'm now breaking into private equity. And so there's just been, I'm kind of all over the place. I've never had like a sit down like corporate job ever. I've just kind of been an ongoing entrepreneur. I've never had, well, I lie. I had one corporate job. It lasted about 20 minutes. I realized corporate world was not for me, like at all. So I've been more of the eat what you kill type personality. So it's worked out for me and my family.
Great. Yeah, I haven't talked to you in a long time, and last time I talked to you were in Utah. So now you're in Wyoming. How long have you been in Wyoming?
I've been here for 3 years. 3 years now. So when I got married in Utah, we got a house there. We lived there for a few years, and then I felt like I really need to move back to Arizona. So we moved to Arizona. We were there for 10, almost 11 years. And then my wife, she's from Wyoming, and she kind of got that feeling like, hey, I think we need to move to Wyoming. I'm like, no, we don't. Like, we don't need to go to Wyoming at all. That's a terrible idea. Like, no way. Because like I'm a city guy. I love the fast life. I love that fast pace. And here in Wyoming, it's a bit slower. You know what I mean? It's
The
people
least
will sit out
populated
on their
state,
porch
so.
and watch the grass grow and really enjoy themselves. And I'm like, what the freak, But yeah, my wife just had this prompting. She needed to come back home. Her parents are both here, so she's from a small town called Cokeville. I don't know if you guys have heard of like
Yeah.
the Cokeville Miracle.
I've got a ton of family there. The Tigerts are my cousins.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man.
No way. That's insane. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, so when she was feeling these feelings, because Cokeville was always a place to get away from the city. It was always a place to, detach from the world and kind of get grounded a little bit. But after a couple weeks, you know what I mean? I'm like, all right, like I'm done. Let's get back into the fire, But to actually live here, I was like, I don't know about all that. So super long story short, went to the temple about it. And I was afraid to go because I was afraid what the answer might be, like most things, right?
Yeah.
And I got an answer. I was like, son of a. I was like, let me go back again. Like, let me make sure the answer was really what I thought the answer was going to be. And sure enough, the answer was to go. And so we packed up and headed north, and I've been here since about 3 years now. So it's different. It's really different, man. It's taken a while to adjust. I don't think I'm fully adjusted yet, honestly. But it has been really good in terms of helping me slow down a little bit, kind of process things, get more grounded on a lot of different aspects of my life. And so yeah, it's been good. But yeah, I've been here for about 3 years now.
All right. Great.
Yeah. And funny enough, believe it or not, so I actually just ran for the mayor of this town.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. And I lost by 16 votes.
16? Recount.
Yeah. It was the mail-in ballots. They came in late.
Jeez.
That's great.
Good for you.
So obviously getting integrated into the community there then.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. It was fun. It was a fun process.
Cool.
That is cool.
So let's go back now. Coming from Arizona to England, I made that same journey. And actually, when I got to the mission, you were in the mission home, and that was like comforting to me to know that an Arizona boy had survived Scotland. So. But take us back. Tell us where you served, who you served with, and any stories, memories you've got. We'd love to hear it all.
Oh man, there's so many. Yeah, so in the MTC in Preston, England, that was like, it was such a shock, right? I mean, because most dudes will go to like the MTC in Utah and have that like experience there, but I just felt really cool. I felt almost like not medieval, but it just had a different like feel to it being in England,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was awesome. I really enjoyed that moment. It's funny because my bags, so we actually got delayed in O'Hare in Chicago. And so like a lot of us who were traveling from like Utah and Arizona, we met in O'Hare, and we missed our connecting flight. So we had to stay the night at a hotel in Chicago and then take off the next morning. and they lost my bags. And so, like, I went a whole week. I mean, thank goodness my mom's like, listen, in your carry-on, you should probably pack like a couple more garments just in case something happens. Like, Mom, like nothing's gonna happen. It's gonna be fine. You know what I mean? But listen to my mom.
Motherly intuition. Thank you, Jack. You took it right out of my mouth.
For sure, man. For sure. Well, I'm glad I did because my bags were lost and took about a week and some change to get back to me. So that was fun. But yeah, after the mission or after the MTC, my first companion, my trainer, the great and powerful Elder Menino, from Sicily, and my first area was Stornoway, so the Isle of Lewis. And let me tell you, man, that was the most insane place ever. So when I, because you have to drive to, so from the mission home, we had to go to different spots, and we missed all these connection like trains, and it was a mess. But anyway, we got to Inverness because you had to take a 2.5 hour ferry ride from Inverness to Stornoway. And I remember like boarding that ferry. I'm like, this is not real. Like, this is not real life. I am not getting on a freaking ferry and traveling across the seas to serve on this little tiny island. This is not real. You know what I mean? And El Menino, he has this real thick, amazing, like Italian accent. Hey, Alek Gilmore, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Like how he talks. But no, man. We got to Stornoway, and I just remember getting off that ferry ride. I'm like, well, like I literally cannot go anywhere because the things didn't go into like they were like 2 weeks apart. So you get there. If you wanted to leave that island, you're 2 weeks away from heading out or anything like that. So I was stuck, man. I was there, and but I tell you what, that was the most critical moment of my mission, because not only was I was scared, I was nervous, but I never, like my personality was never one to just like go and talk to people. I'm pretty reserved dude, and El Menino was perfect because he just threw me right in the fire. He was like, all right, drop your bags off. We're going to go street contacting right now. I'm like, I mean, street contacting? That's what they did like in the 1800s, man. Like, we don't do this. What are you talking about? So drop my bags off in the flats and took off to the city, the town center there. And I was like, I what am I doing here? This is so stupid. And then El Menino was like, all right, I'm going to go to this side. You go to that side, and we'll meet up in about an hour and a half. I'm like, so you want me just to go talk to people? He's like, yeah, just start talking. I'm like, well, what do I say? It's like, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. Alek Gilmore, you'll figure it out. I'm like,
nice.
So I just sat there like, this is not real. And I remember, kind of scoping out the people there. And I saw this little dude. He looked like he was probably my age. Like, you know what? I'm gonna go up to him, start talking to him, maybe start talking about sports or something, right? Walked up to him and said, "Hey, my name is Alek Gilmore. I just came from America. Nice to meet you. What's your name?" He goes, "Oh, you're one of those Mormon missionaries, huh?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And he goes, "So what do you think about?" And he breaks open his scriptures. And he gives you some random scripture in the Old Testament. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about. And then he saw, and what do you think about? And so he started like cross-referencing all these different scriptures and going back to the New Testament and the Old Testament.
Your very first contact.
My very first contact. And then like he goes, "Hey, I thought you were a an ambassador for Jesus Christ? I'm like, I am. He goes, so why don't you know your scriptures? And that cut deep, man. That cut deep.
Ooh.
And he just like destroyed me scripturally from like the Old Testament and the New Testament. Come to find out, he was like in this one like this prestigious gospel like he was starting to become like a priest, or I don't know what it is, but he was super well versed in the scriptures. And I remember after that, like that was that wake up call where I have, my name badge says a missionary, for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I am Christ's ambassador. I am his servant. And that just really kicked my butt into overdrive to wake up, an hour earlier, study my scriptures, and just like really get deep into it. And so that was that wake up call that I needed. And the rest was kind of history. So after, Elder Menino worked super hard on Stornoway, we actually had 2 baptisms there. And previously they hadn't had a baptism on Stornoway in like 10 years or something crazy like that. We went from teaching maybe 5 discussions a week to like 20 discussions a week. I mean, it was awesome.
That's great.
And yeah, then after he left, Elder Anderson came in from Denmark, another stud, just an amazing missionary.
Did they have a baptismal font up there?
They did, yeah.
Okay.
They did. They actually got well, it's older now, but the building was about, I think it's like 2 or 3 years new when we were there. So it was a pretty new building. But they had a baptismal font and everything, and it was gorgeous, man. And the chapel looked over the sea, so you could walk out and see the beautiful water there, and it was gorgeous, man. It really was. So then after Stornoway, I was called to Dundee. I was in a threesome with Elder Hanks and Elder Webb. And I was there for I think I was there for 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. And then I got transferred over to Sterling because one of the missionaries he went home. And then I went from Dundee to Sterling. And do you guys remember Elder Wright? Seth Wright?
Doesn't ring a bell for me.
I know the name, but I don't know him.
So he had a really interesting experience. He got beat up pretty badly on his mission. I think it was like his first or second month actually in the mission field. He got beat up really bad. And then as soon as he got released from the hospital, he got beat up a second time.
Oh my goodness.
And like busted his jaw. And so he has like a titanium jaw.
My gosh.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So he was my first companion in Sterling. And man, freaking love that dude, man. We did some great things there. Had an amazing time. And then after Elder Wright, I trained Elder Grant. He was from England, the Isle of Wight.
Isle of Wight, yeah. We actually had him scheduled to be on here, but he got ill at the time we're supposed to have him on, so we got to get him back.
Oh, really?
On our schedule, yeah.
Oh man. So I got a good story about Elder.
I know you do.
Elder Grant. Yeah. I got a good story about him, man. So he was. It was funny because when I was called to train him, President Wilkinson, he took me to the side. He's like, "Listen, this missionary, he's really homesick. He wants to go home, and I'm putting him with you because I know like you'll work him hard and you'll love him, but I know that you'll be able to kind of keep him in line, right?" I'm like, I'll do my best, President. I promise you I will. And then so when I saw him, I was just like, man, this he just seemed a bit timid. He just seemed not sure of himself. And so after we got done with the whole luncheon and then meeting everyone, we took off. And I basically treated him the same way that Elder Menino treated me. Dropped his bags off. I'm like, all right, let's go chapping. Let's go to work. because in my mind, I wanted him to hate me for working him so hard, so he had no time to think about home. And so from the time we got there, man, even I was like, man, I'm tired. I'm exhausted, you know. And so we were there for a week. And he did talk about home a little bit, but it wasn't anything too crazy. And I just thought, like, all right, we got past a week. He's pretty much here now. But no, he's like, I'm going home. I'm going home. And I made him promise me. It's like, all right, listen, because we built up a pretty good pipeline to teach a lot of people. I said, listen, please, like, if you do, like, let's just teach these people first, and then we can kind of talk about it. You know what I mean? And then he goes, okay, like, we can do that. So this was the night before, and then so I was in the front room writing in my journal, and I knew, like, I had to stay awake because I knew he was, like, packing his bags and he was trying to head off home. And I just, like, I stayed awake and I dozed off for, like, I don't know, like 20 or 30 minutes. And that was just enough time for him to finish packing his bags and then sneak out the front door, to go to the train station. And I fell asleep, I woke up. I had been, man, because I want to say, like, I stayed up to like 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, and I woke up. It was around 3:34, and I looked around. No one was there. I was like, crap, Brother Grant's gone, man.
Oh, man.
So I called President. Say, hey, President, Brother Grant's gone. He goes, well, go find him. Like, what do you mean? He's like, throw on your P-Day clothes and go find him. I said, all right. So I knew the schedule of the bus schedule. I knew the train schedule. So I knew he was in town somewhere. But Sterling is a pretty nice city. So he literally could have been anywhere at that time. Yeah. And threw on my P-Day clothes, went running out. I was like, all right, he might be in the town center. Went to the town center. He wasn't there. And I checked everywhere. I mean, I was looking around for a good hour and a half, and I could not find him anywhere, man. I went to the bus station. I went everywhere. I'm like, where is he? Where could he be? And then, so there's this bridge. You crossed over to get to the main city there. So I remember walking up the bridge, just totally defeated, really sad. I promised President I'd watch over him. So I just stood there on the bridge, kind of, little teary eyed, really sad, just praying, like, Heavenly Father, help me find Alek Grant. Like, where could he be? And so the bridge overlooks, and you can see the train station from the bridge. And I saw some people walking. So I had gone to the train station and it was closed, so there was no one there. But there's like this little back way that I didn't check, and I saw people walking out from that back way. I'm like, like, that's where he is. He probably went through that back gate to get to the train station. And so I just sprinted, man, took off running over there because I knew the train was about to leave pretty soon. Opened that gate. Sure enough, man, sitting down on that bench, he looked at me. His eyes got huge. I'm like, I went off, man. I'm like, what are you doing? Are you kidding me? Like, you promised me you'd stay here. And so we had a little go at it, right there on the deck. And he was going, man. There was nothing I could say. There's nothing I could do. He was going. And I remember asking him, I was like, hey, so you're trying to tell me that, like, when it's all said and done, you can look your Savior in the eyes and say, I went home because it was too hard for me after everything he's done. I really just, like, I mean, I was pulling out all the stops, man. I like nothing was sacred at that point. And he goes, yeah. And I freaking pop, freaking nailed him, man. And I was so mad. It wasn't hard, but it was a good shock. Like he definitely felt it. And I grabbed his bag and I threw it back to him. I was like, this is gonna be the biggest mistake of your life, man. And I turned around and walked home. And I was freaking bawling, man. I was crying like crazy. And got to the flat, called President. I was like, President, I tried. But Elder Grant, he's gone. He went home, because I mean England was only like what, like a 2-hour train ride from like anywhere from Scotland. So it was easy to get home, right?
Yep.
And President, like, I understand, thanks for trying. And so then so that was that. And I was just like, so then he called Elder Croshaw. I loved Elder Croshaw. He was a good dude. He was super tall. He was like 6'6". He was actually I think he's from Arizona as well. He's from either AZ or Utah. I can't remember. But Elder Croshaw, he came. And then within like 23 hours or so, I get a phone call from President. He goes, hey, I got some good news. Elder Grant's coming back home. I'm like, are you serious? Are you kidding me? He's like, no. I said, Elder Croshaw, I love you, but you got to go, bro. Elder Grant's coming back, man. So I was Elder Crowshaw's companion for like 24 hours. And then
Nice.
Elder Grant came back on fire. And man, that's my guy. That's my dude. I love that man so much. And we did just amazing things. And Sterling had some great baptisms there, great experiences there. And yeah, so that was a really, really special moment in my mission. And then from there, I became a zone leader in Glasgow, or like the Paisley area. Served with Elder Delabout. Y'all remember Billy Delabout by chance?
Yep.
Yeah, he was a stud, man. I love that dude. Super, just like really smart guy. He like the one thing that Delabout taught me was like, I mean, there's like a logical side of things. There's a spiritual side of things, and like the two not only can coexist, but like it makes more sense. Because he had such a high level of intelligence. I just remembered just learning so much from him from like a gospel standpoint and a spiritual standpoint. And then when he left, my dude, I call him the professional. Elder Karish came through, and he was actually my longest companion. I think we were together for like 4.5 months or something like that.
You lucky dog.
Yeah, he was, man. I could do a whole nother segment on just stories that he and I experienced, man. Like the Shaolin witches, the Twisted Sisters, Brother Stever. I can tell you this one story though. So we were, oh my gosh, I can't believe they let kids like knock in these dodgy freaking high flats, man. I mean, we could have been murdered at any given time. Like it is so crazy. Like when you think about it, right? When you think about just going into these random ghetto areas, what's that?
It's the projects in
The
Scotland.
PJs. Yeah, for sure it is. And so we knocked on this one dude's door. He opens up. He's like, "Yeah, come on in." And in my experience, whenever someone says "come on in," it's gonna be weird. Like something's gonna go wrong. It's like it never happens. Like, come on in, I've been waiting for you. I never had that freaking story. Like I've been praying for messengers, and you're here, and I want to get baptized. Like it was always the opposite. Like my life was always in danger when someone invited me to the door, that quickly. So and good thing about like Karish is a big dude, you know what I mean? So, so we walked in this guy's. Do you remember? Have you guys seen Napoleon Dynamite?
Of course.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you know, like the master, like the dojo master with the American pants. No, you sensei, like that dude, right? So this guy reminded me of that guy, right? We walk in, and it is the most dodgy freaking just environment. That the vibe is off. Everything is off about this, and there's his daughter was there. She was young. She was like 9 or 10 years old, but she was off in the corner, really scared, and just it was weird, man. It's a weird vibe. But he was telling us how he's like this expert martial artist, and he's done all these tournaments, and he just like was like this master, right? He grabs this apple. He goes, have you ever seen someone stick their fingers through an apple before? And looked at each other like, no. That's this apple. He's all, yeah. Starts like dominating his apple with his finger, and then like 2 fingers. Looking at each other like, what is this guy on? You know what I mean? And his daughter is like in the corner, scared out of her mind. The lights are dim. He has weights everywhere, and it was the most just awkward, most random. So we got a kick out of it. So we used to grab apples and like try to like puncture holes through them with our fingers, and it was wild, man. But so yeah, I was with Karish for 4.5 months, and man, I tell you what, those Glaswegians, man. I mean, they have a really, really hard exterior, but when you're in, I mean, they will do anything for you. Some of my best friends who I still contact even to this day, they're from that area. I call them my family, so whenever like there's like a special event that happens in their life, they always hit me up, and they always, hey, just we still chat to this day. But nice. Man, those people from Glasgow are just the most beautiful people on earth. We got really, really good friends with like the local Neds there, so we were protected by the local Neds, and it was a blast, man. We had so much fun there. We used to play soccer every weekend with some of the the ward members, but then like all the Neds would come, and we just play soccer every Saturday and just have a good time. And they just realized we're regular people, you know what I mean? So that was a lot of fun. And then from there, so after Paisley, I was called to be AP, and then I served in Edinburgh for my last 4.5 months. So I was with Elder Howe for a little bit, and then after Elder Howe, was with Elder Nelson, and that's where I ended my mission, man, was with Elder Nelson in Edinburgh. So it was amazing. I mean, I'm sure every missionary says that their experience was unique, but I just feel like a Scotland mission is like one of the most unique missions out there, because there's just so many. It's so hard, it's so difficult, but at the same time, it's such an amazing personal experience, spiritual experience. It's just beautiful, man. I reflect on my mission literally every single day since I've left. I don't think I've not thought about Scotland, not once, since I've left there. So
yeah.
In fact, in my office, I have my missionary journal still here. So I'll go and I'll reflect on that. Just to remind me of when things are challenging, it will always get better. You know what I mean? And just reflect on some of those experiences that I've had. And yeah, there's nothing like a Scottish mission, man. Nothing at all.
Yeah, that's great. So one thing we've been asking people is for memories about mission presidents. So for you, Wilkinson and Vriens.
Man, You know what? So I was really fortunate that I had two mission presidents. Elder Wilkinson was just that stalwart, just I mean, powerful individual, powerful guy. And halfway through my mission, he left, and then Elder Vriens or President Vriens came through, and I learned from both of them, from President Wilkinson that the gospel is something not to be taken lightly. Like, especially at that time, we were called of God. We represented Jesus Christ, and that's something that should not be taken lightly at all. And his big thing was about the atonement, and so I really got to have a sacred love about the atonement, and how impactful it is, not just in my life, but in everyone's life. And so I really got to know Christ on a deep, profound level through President Wilkinson. But President Vriens, he's as close. So I have, my own personal father who I revere. He's one of my greatest heroes, one of my greatest inspirations. And then President Vriens is just like a step below my father. Like President Vriens is one of the most special men in my life. He taught me that the gospel is the most important and most critical thing in my life. But in saying that, life is to be enjoyed. Life is to have fun, and it's to not be taken so seriously. And I remember I had a really hard time with President Vriens when he first came out, because President Wilkinson was very much by the book. He's very much, cut and dry. And President Vriens was very much go by the Spirit, like go how you feel. And he had no boundaries, man. He was open to all types of ideas and that really, but that also taught me, like, there is room, like there's wiggle room. You know what I mean? Like there is the spirit of the law. There's the letter of the law. And then when I became President Vriens' assistant, I really got to know him on like a one-on-one level, and I learned that it's okay to show emotion. Like it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to really open up. A quick funny story about President Vriens. So when he was a missionary, I think it was a missionary in Holland, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And so he's definitely a joker. Like he and Sister Vriens love to play jokes and clown around. And he said that when he was a young missionary, he played a prank on his mission president, where they baked him a pie, and instead of having whipped cream as the filling or on the top, he put shaving cream for his filling. And so I was like, I'm gonna get him back. We're gonna get him back for sure. And this is when I first I'd been there for one transfer, and it was me, Elder Hal, and then we had just called Elder Nelson. So there, there's a time, there's a threesome for like a week, to like get one off, and then kind of the other one knows and learns how to, the ropes, whatever. And so after we got done teaching a few discussions, I was like, let's go to the store, grab some pie, and let's get President Vriens. And they both were on board. They loved it. Like, yeah, let's go. So we went to the store, grabbed it. I believe it was a pumpkin pie, or it was an apple pie. I can't remember which pie it was. And so after we got done, we went to his office, and we all had our own slices of pie there. You know what I mean? And so we put whipping cream on ours, and then I put shaving cream on President's. And the thing is this, right? So we get into his office, and he's like, "Oh, elders, I'm so glad you came in." He goes, shut the door. I'm like, oh boy, because he has no idea what's about to come his way. He shut the door, and he goes, "You guys need to sit down because there's something really serious that's happened in the mission." I'm like, oh crap. So we sat down, and he tells a story about a missionary, and it was a pretty serious thing that happened. And so the mood was not a mood of like a joke. It was very serious. It was very tense. And I'm sitting here, and I have my pie, I have his pie, and I gave it to him before we sat down. So in front of him is a pie, knowing that there is shaving cream on top of it, and me, Elder Howell, and Elder Nelson are like, oh crap, this is not like the best circumstance to play this joke, So he's telling us what's going on, and he takes like this big old chunk and he eats it, right? So he's sitting there, he goes, like he's trying to be nice. He's trying to be respectful. And I put my head down, and I'm like, oh, please forgive me. Like, please forgive me. And Elder Howell and Elder Nelson we're both like, we're all like just head down in shame. And President Vriens, he's trying to be serious, but like grateful at the same time. And he takes another scoop. I'm like, President, stop. What are you doing? I'm like, there's shaving cream on there. He goes, wrong. He starts laughing. Like he laughed so hard. I thought we were dead. I thought we were going to be like, I thought we were dead. But he just cracks up, man. He's laughing. Then he goes, Sister Vriens, come take it. He goes, come taste my pie. And he gives it to Sister Vriens.
He did it. Oh my gosh.
Then he starts laughing like his head off. And Sister Vriens like, that's not very funny. But that was one of my like cherished memories, man. It's like, even in like the most tense situations, like there's always room for laughter. There's always room to lighten up the mood. You know what I mean? But yeah, I love that man so much. I learned so much from him. It was just an amazing, because the thing I love about him as well, like he had this incredible business mind. And I learned a lot of business principles from him as well. That I've carried over into my business, as you know what I mean. And so he taught me just a lot about life. He taught me a lot about the joy of laughter, just the joy of living life to its fullest, because he just had an amazing outlook on the gospel, not taking it too seriously, always find joy in what you do. And so I definitely have tried to keep those teachings in my personal life. And when I'm fulfilling a calling or whatever, it's like, how can I find joy in this process? And so I really revere that man. I love him. It's a very sacred part of my soul that he has, and him and Sister Vriens, for sure that I do.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What a good story.
It was awesome. We played pranks on each other every once in a while, but that was my favorite one for sure. My favorite one.
That's pretty good. Oh man. Yeah, and I remember when you were leaving the mission, I think Grant was one of my zone leaders at the time, but he got up and, as part of the testimony portion of the zone meeting, shared how he appreciated you hitting him in the face. So
yeah, I remember that. I remember that farewell testimony for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta tell him when you talk to him that I love that dude, man. He's a tremendous inspiration, but he needed a good sock right in the mouth, though. You know what I mean? He needed a good, just quick jab right to the chin.
A physical reminder.
That's it, man. That's it. So
Good. Any other missionaries you served around or friends you had that you want to shout out? We need your help to get on some of the older guys who aren't as connected on social media and whatnot. They're a little harder to reach.
yeah,
But so you've
yeah.
already talked about some great ones, but
You know what? I would love to. My guy Karish. I mean, I would love to hear from Karish. You know what I mean? Like he and I, we still are in contact with each other, but I love that dude so much.
you can help me with that one because I served with him his last 6 weeks, and I've been poking him to come on. He said he wanted to see how this goes for a little while. It's been a little while, so now no
Yeah.
excuses, Karish.
No
Get on
excuses.
here.
No, the professional needs to get on board here. But yeah, I mean, honestly, there's not one companion that I don't want to single out because like they all have a very special place in my heart. I mean, obviously Elder Menino, my trainer, Elder Anderson up in Denmark. Oh man, I don't know. Dude, I mean, Elder Wright. I mean, he has stories upon stories about just getting the crap kicked out of him his first months out in the mission, but he stuck it out and like literally has a titanium jaw to remind him of his mission. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Do you remember his first name?
Yeah, Seth Wright.
Seth, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yep, Seth. I'd love to hear from Seth. I've heard from Hal since I left. Brian Hal. He's a stud. Kevin Nelson. I served with Kevin my last 3 months, in the mission home. So, Elder Franks, Hunter Franks. Did you guys ever? You probably didn't know Hunter Franks.
We've heard a little bit about him on this podcast, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his name's come up. So
he's a stud, man. I love Hunter. He actually I served with it. Did I say I served with him in Dundee?
No, I don't think you'd mentioned that one.
Yeah, so I was in a threesome with Hunter Franks and Jeff Webb. Is who I was in my threesome with.
I thought you said Hanks. That's not my. That's
yeah.
I'm
No,
glad you clarified that. Okay.
Yeah, Franks. Yeah, other Franks. Yeah, Hunter Franks.
Okay.
Not Hanks. Yeah, because when I said that, I was like, that doesn't sound right. But no, it's Franks. Yeah. He was a stud, man. But no, I know that was such a crapshoot. Because I honestly love all my mission companions, man. There's not one that they all taught me so much, man.
We know from doing this for a while now that it. Go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and you can finish your thought, but the other question we've asked those that are older generation than us is, how did you see a transition in the mission when it went from the missionary handbook to eventually preach my gospel? I know it wasn't like full board when you were there, but what was your experience with that?
Yeah. No, that was interesting because, when I was out there, it was very much memorize the mission discussions. And I actually enjoyed that. I really did because with President Wilkinson, he had different tiers of like he had like I can't remember. Let's see if I can find my book. He had like a master teacher, a scriptorian,
like levels of advancement as you got better at teaching each of those.
Yeah. So you had to memorize all 6 discussions like word for word. And then you had to memorize certain scriptures word for word.
Yeah, the scriptorian.
Yeah, scriptorian. Yeah. And that was my goal, was to be a scriptorian. Um, and that was like, I mean, like just a handful of people would do that. And I was on track to reaching it. And then they did away with the set discussions, and then did more like teach by the Spirit. And that's actually one thing that Elder Anderson taught me on Stornoway. So Menino was very much by the book, man. He was very much, we're gonna teach this. We're not gonna deviate from it whatsoever, because this is what has been asked. And 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 I felt like when we were teaching a new member, or like a new contact, if they had like a question about baptism, I wanted to teach about baptism, but Menino was like, no, we're going to teach like the first two discussions, and then we'll talk about baptism, right? And I always was like, man, like why don't we just teach what their questions are about? And then when Anderson came, he was very much like, yeah, we're gonna, like, whatever the people want, like, we're gonna teach what they need. And I love that. So we actually started to teach more by the Spirit, even though we were still by the book. And then and they're definitely, I mean, like without Menino really hammer in, like, you have to just know so much inside and out. Like, I could recite, I could just off the top of my head talk about any gospel doctrine with scriptures to back it up. So that really empowered me as a missionary to not feel intimidated by any question, like, at all, right? And
Yeah.
then when they actually did away with that, it was more like by the Spirit. I had already kind of been doing that in a process. So for me, it was a very natural progression, is a very natural feeling, if you will. And I loved it, man, because then we could really, we could talk about the plan of happiness and a little bit of, baptism in one go.
Hmm.
We could really customize it to our contacts. And for me, I felt that that's when the Spirit was the most powerful, because we were conveying a message that was directly for an individual.
Yeah.
And it was powerful.
Yeah. I mean, that truly it. I mean, obviously, you saw it a little bit in the early stages, but seeing it in its full, manifestation of sorts, with Preach My Gospel being something that I brought into the mission. Um, I couldn't have had imagined going and doing, the memorization and then seeing that sort of a transition. So I appreciate hearing your own thoughts on that, because it had to have been so different from, day one
Yeah.
to seeing that transition. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. No, for sure. And there is definitely kickback from it. I remember there had to been some type of a buy-in into that whole transition.
Yeah.
And because, just speaking for me personally, because I fully immerse myself into the scriptures, into the set standard discussions. I knew the gospel inside and out at a very high level. And so for me personally, it allowed me to not just teach by the Spirit, but to teach powerfully by the Spirit, and not mince my words, and not second guess what I was saying. Because there were some times, man, like when I would be in some. In fact, I'll tell one more quick story. When I was a zone leader in uh, my Paisley's zone leader, we are at a zone conference, and um, oh man, it's crazy. So we're at a zone conference, and we decided to do some street contacting, in between sessions. So there was me and I'd say like 6 or 7 other missionaries, and we just kind of flooded the streets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I went street contacting, so actually from my time in Stornoway, when I hated doing it, to when I got used to it, I loved street con. That was my favorite way to talk to people, because there's like people everywhere, and you can just approach them and just start talking to them, right? Like that was like my jam, man. I loved that. So, and every time I went and I contacted on the streets, I would survey, and I would just look at people, and I don't know, I really try to be led by the Spirit in everything that I did. But but this one particular time, during the zone conference, and we were out like in between in between sessions, we're in the town center of I think I want to say it was Dundee. Yeah, it was Dundee. We're in Dundee, and I saw this dude, older guy, had this really dope tweed suit on, had an old school like golfer hat on, just like just as Scottish as you can freaking be, man.
Nice.
And I'm like, I've got to talk to this guy. I've got to talk to this guy. So I went over there, shook up a conversation, and we just started talking, and we talked about the most in-depth, like it was one of the most in-depth gospel doctrine conversations I've ever had in my entire life. And there were things I wish I could recall like the entire conversation, but there were things that I said, dude, that I was like, I am not talking right now. Like there is someone moving my lips and like putting out the words. I'm literally a vessel right now. It was the most out of body, craziest experience I've ever had. And early on in the conversation, I offered a Book of Mormon, and he very kindly said, thanks, but no thanks. And then we started talking some more, and talking some more, and talking some more, and then it got to the point. So we probably were speaking to one another for about 30, maybe 45 minutes. I mean, it was us and no one else was around us. We're like in a bubble. I'm telling you, dude.
Those are the best.
It was wild. Yeah. So come to find out, like after everything, I remember one snippet. It's kind of coming to my mind right now. He because he was very much based in science, and how religion and science cannot coexist. And one of the things I said to him that really made him think was, I said, one of my issues with science is that people are always trying to prove a theory wrong. Like they'll go their entire lives trying to prove a theory or disprove a theory. I said, would you agree with that? He said, yeah, I agree with that. I said, say for example, you went your whole life like just believing in this theory, believing like this was the way, this is the path, and say like you're in your 90s and someone comes and with no doubt about it, they disprove that theory, right? So you spent your entire life believing in something that actually was not true. And he sat there and he thought about that. And I said, the thing I love about the gospel of Jesus Christ is that I can believe in the same thing when I'm 8 years old, all the way up to when I'm 95 years old. And that's not going to change because Christ is everlasting. He does like his gospel is the same, yesterday, today, and forever.
Right.
And so I can put my entire life, I can put my entire existence into the gospel of Jesus Christ, because I know when I die, that will still be the same. And he goes, you know what? That's the best description of why someone believes in the gospel I've ever heard in my life. And then he says, he goes, I believe every word that you're saying is true. He goes, I believe that that there is a God. He goes, I believe that there is something beyond this existence. And he goes, the reason why I cannot say I believe in God is because he was the head master of the science department at the University of Dundee.
Oh my gosh.
Like, he was the head guy there. And he goes, if any one of my colleagues ever heard me say I believe in God, or I believe what you said, not only would I get laughed off the stage, but my entire career would be over with, would be done. And that was such an eye-opening experience for me. And then I said, will you please accept the Book of Mormon? And he said, yeah, I'll read it. And I never heard from him ever again. And I always wondered, did he actually ever read that book? You know what I mean? Because it's like, there's so many things out there right now, man, that detract from the Spirit. But when the Spirit is present in such a manner that there's no denying, it's you cannot accept anything other than there has to be a God. There has to be a bigger existence than just Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
There has to be. And that moment with that gentleman, replays in my mind every once in a while when I have different questions, or when things, when the old testimony gets tested, you know what I'm saying? And I can reflect back on some of these stories and like, all right, listen, I know these things are true. Like, I know it's just a moment in time right now, and it allows me to get back to center. It allows me to get back to what I know to be true. But that dude, the man with the tweed hat is what I call him. That was such an amazing experience, dude. And since then, I've never had a conversation quite like that. It was beyond the realm of this existence. It really was. It was pretty cool.
I'm sure, that conversation that you're reminding of is reminding me of multiple instances in my experience where I came across people who were either of faith or not of faith,
Mm-hmm.
that you help explain the logic behind the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And they have those aha moments, right? And the things that we've been taught is it's something that they already know from the pre-existence,
Mm-hmm.
that they are just being reminded of through the gift of the Spirit.
Yeah.
And how many of those people did we encounter that were caught up in what they had going on in their life, or the culture of what they were already surrounded by?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was talking with priests, or people who ran other religious institutions, or were prominent people within the congregations that they've been in for years,
Yeah.
that recognized truth in the things that we spoke of, but could not make that leap of faith to get beyond what was surrounding them in their earthly existence. And for me, in those recollections, I've thought a lot on, how do you think our loving Father in heaven is seeing those people, and thinking about the fact that they're this close, right? And all they need to do is set aside the worldly things in order to embrace the whole truth.
Yeah.
But yet they're human, just like the rest of us. And we get caught up in the mundane oftentimes. And that is just one of those things in life where I feel that there will be a greater measure of grace from our Savior Jesus Christ when that time comes, because they were there, and if circumstances were different, they would have moved forward.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there are others that have embraced it and thrown away life and everything as they've known it, sacrificing friends and family and everything, that will be obviously greater rewarded at that point in time. But still, I feel like that love of our Savior will be shown upon those people to say, hey, you knew it, you saw it, you were this close, but at the same time, we appreciate the fact that you had to do what you needed to do in order to feel comfortable in your current existence. You know what I mean?
Man, I sign off on that so much, because there's the man back at it again.
Sorry.
But there is such a, so there's mercy and justice, right? And I know that mercy plays a humongous role in fulfilling a much larger gap of someone that we're talking about. Of they knew it, they kind of just, they felt it, but because of circumstances, or maybe they just weren't strong enough to give up what they knew, or they, because, man, when you are deeply enrooted in a thought or an idea for your whole life, like, imagine how hard it is to break a habit that you've had for a couple of months or even a couple of years. But imagine having that for your entire life, and then, like, this new thing kind of pops up. Like, there's such a there's such an element of mercy that has to be there, which is there because of Jesus Christ, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's why I can definitely, I can love unconditionally, because I know that if circumstances were just a little bit differently, or if things were just calculated a little bit, whatever, like, I think when I gained my testimony, I gained it because, number one, I had some type of a foundation already there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's already something there for me to kind of stand upon. But I still had to go through the fire. I still had to go through the trials to get me to where I wanted to be. A testimony does not come without a test. Like, you have to be tested in something.
Yeah.
And when I was, I'm like, okay, there has to be something towards the gospel. Like, we're not here just to exist, and that's it. So I could accept the gospel a lot easier because of that foundation that was already there. But those who have no foundation, who believe that there's something out there, and then when you present it to them, it's almost like an unfair advantage for them, because although they know there's something bigger or greater, it's like, how can this even exist, and me not ever knowing about it? I don't know if that even makes sense, but I agree there's that that's when that mercy comes in and allows such a process where you can get to wherever you want to go. You just have to be willing to get there. Like, you have to be willing to strip away some of that stuff. And if you're not, then that's on you. But if you are, there's a process that takes place because of it. You know what I'm saying? And so,
absolutely. I mean, the thing that I think about often too is how many people that we came across may have never had an interaction with the church.
right.
And we were that first interaction.
Yeah.
And obviously, some of them are positive, some of them are negative, some of them are indifferent. But the bottom line is, we were there as a representative of our Savior Jesus Christ,
For sure.
and presented them the opportunity to listen and to learn, and to invite the Spirit to teach them beyond the words that we spoke. Like you said, those out-of-body experiences of missionary are some of my favorite memories, because you knew you weren't speaking. It was that promise being fulfilled in the Doctrine and Covenants, that if you open your mouth, I will fill your mouth with the words to say. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. It's like you're just opening your mouth up and down, but like the words are not yours. They're the Spirit. It was just, those are the most incredible. I remember when we were I was with Elder Karish, but we were teaching 3 Iranians. Man, these talk about faith, man. Talk about these guys, like because when they showed us, they got some type of like cable illegal hooked up that went back to their home, like in Iran. I don't know how they did it, but these dudes are smart, man.
Yeah.
But he sat us down in the front room, and they televised what happens if you convert over to Christianity, and
Oh my gosh.
barbaric stuff. Like they showed an actual stoning. Have you guys actually seen an actual stoning
No.
before?
No, and I'd prefer not to.
It is the craziest thing you could ever witness. So they showed us an actual stoning. I mean, they showed us some crazy stuff. He says this will happen to us if we become members of the church, and then our green card or our visas, whatever, if they expire and we don't get them renewed and we go back to Iran, this is what happens to us. And it was high pressure because if they denounce their beliefs and become members, like that is their fate if they don't get their stuff renewed. But they went through it anyway and ended up getting baptized despite all that stuff. That was a powerful baptism, man. Yeah, I think, so there you have that type of faith where like literally your life is on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the other type where, because you can't put down a cigarette or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So there's everything that's in between there. And that's where the mercy comes in, because it fulfills that entire perspective, that's why I love mercy, man, because it's not just for one person, not for the others, for everyone on all levels.
Yeah. I mean, you spoke at the beginning of our conversation about the power of the atonement and how you learned that on your mission. I have a very similar testimony where the realities of human existence is key on that mercy that Christ provides. And all of it is through that atonement that he went through for us. And it's life-changing when you realize that is there to help you. You are not in this alone. And it's amazing.
I think that's a really a key element. And one thing that I teach, my girls, we've all heard that old saying, practice makes what? Perfect.
Right? Yep.
But I say, listen, man, that's wrong. Practice makes progression. It's impossible to be perfect. You can't be perfect. It literally is impossible. And I think from like a gospel perspective, so many people focus on the lack of perfection and not enough on the glory and the beauty of progression. Yep. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And because I know, like in the darkest times of my life since the mission, where I'm like, man, I'm not reading my scriptures enough. I'm not praying enough. I'm not. But then that's only like a small portion of everything that I'm doing right. So it's like I'm focusing on the stuff that I know I'll never be perfect in, and not focusing on enough on the stuff I'm progressing in. And what I made that mind shift in my mind, it's like, okay, now we're talking about grace and mercy. Now I can allow myself that grace that I know I won't be perfect no matter what I do. And I know as long as I try, man, as long as I'm just 1% better like today than I was yesterday, that's enough for me. And I know that's enough for my Heavenly Father, my Savior, Jesus Christ. And as I focus on the progress of perfection, not just perfection, that allows me so much more space in my life where I don't have to like beat myself up over and over with the things that I'm not perfect in, right? Because that's not reality. And I think with a lot of members, even some some other missionaries that I know, I find it. I just want them to know, like, they're never going to be perfect. So stop trying. Just progress, man. Just do what you can, and everything else will take care of itself. It's all, in my experience, is my intentions. If my intentions are to be better, then everything else will kind of take care of itself. So
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
mean, as we know, the Lord looketh on the heart.
Hmm.
Actions are actions, words are words. But if your intention is to be good and do good, that's your true character.
Yeah.
So take that for what it is. Just do your best,
Yeah.
and the Savior will make up the rest.
Yeah. I fully agree with that as well, man. And especially in today, you guys have kids, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like, as fathers, it's a very interesting time to navigate, like, the state of affairs out there right now, right? It's a very interesting time. Because I truly now start to realize and understand that phrase, to be in the world but not of the world. Um,
Yeah. Gosh.
and when having three girls, I tell you what, man, like, as a father, I am super protective. Uh, my son, yeah, I know that he'll be able to he'll take care of business when business, needs to be taken care of. It with my girls, I'm like, you look at her wrong, you do anything wrong, um, there's gonna be some trouble. Be some smoke in the city,
We're girl dads as
enforcer.
well, so we
Yep.
get it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I just think, like, it's so important to teach those principles of progression, and teaching those principles of just, like, just do what you can today, and everything else will kind of take care of itself, and not to get so caught up in the stuff that goes on around you, and not to get so caught up in, technology and all that stuff, because that's always going to be there. But, the things that are important to you, family and faith, and, being a good person, cultivating your testimony, like, that's the stuff that will keep them sustained for years and years to come. And it's a trip, man. My wife and I are figuring out every single day, and it's a learning process all the way through. But I tell you what, I don't know how families do it without the gospel in their lives. I really don't. Um, Without those guiding principles, and without that guiding light, man, people do it all the time, obviously, but
I'm with
man,
you. I don't know how.
it's crazy.
The
Yeah,
gospel makes it indefinitely easier
yeah,
because you can eliminate a lot of those variables very, very quickly
yeah,
just by following the principles laid out in the gospel.
for sure, man, for sure. And it's one of those things where it's not. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be challenges. It doesn't mean there's not going to be, you know, it's going to be like smooth sailing all the way through. It's the opposite. But it's like, when you have a guiding light, when you have a true north to look towards, like you said, it makes things so much easier, so much easier. Um, and I just hope that, my kids, my girls, and my son just always know and understand that there's always a way back. You know what I mean? Like, if they
Yep.
if they quote unquote fall off, or whatever that looks like, there's always a way back. You're never you're never too far away from the outreach of your Savior's hand, ever. Um, and as long as they understand and know that, I think everything else will kind of take care of itself. But man, I tell you what, without the mission, though, like, without those principles, and those just real intense challenges on the mission, life would be so much more challenging, dude. So much more challenging. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the mission, my companions, the crazy people I spoke with, the cool people I spoke with. You know what I'm saying? The crazy food that I ate. My goodness, just it's wild. wild time.
Oh, love it.
Amen, man. Have you been back since?
No. We were looking to go back, but when COVID hit, it just wasn't right, and I'm not going to get vaxxed. So until they get all that stuff figured out, I want to. I want to go back really, really bad, and so we'll figure that stuff out. Now we have 4 kids, it makes things a bit more challenging and stuff like that. So, but it's definitely in the plans to go back and kind of see the old stomping grounds and be the old head that goes to the sacrament. 20 years ago, I was here.
There you go. Full circle.
Well, sounds like your oldest is getting to the point where she might be able to run the house for a week.
Oh man, she's
just take
she's
off.
been running that house for years, man. She's legit. She's like it's funny because she has, so my wife is very much how do I explain it? She has a process. I mean, it's very much like we're doing this, everything is scheduled out. I'm very much, let's just kind of do it, see what happens. You know what I'm saying? But she's and my oldest has that same personality. I mean, she has like this PowerPoint presentation of like what she wants for Christmas. I'm like, when did you have time to do this? She broke it down, the benefits, like, what is going on here? So yeah, she can run the house for about a week or so. She's very, very mature. She's very on the ball. But tell you what, my second and my third child, I just need all the prayers I can get, man. These my second and my third are wild. They're something else. They would be really good for like if they were born in the 1800s, just being outside, churning butter, you know what I'm saying, making fire with sticks and all that crap, living, they're so funny. But my 13-year-old, she's on the ball, so it's kind of cool.
Your middle two probably suit living in Wyoming better than other places then.
Yeah, man. They love it. I mean, because like in Arizona, in the summertime, you can't go outside, right? You know this, Jack. You can't go outside in AZ in the summertime. Like it's crazy. And if you go outside, you have to be there for 30 minutes. You got to come back inside. But here, how great it is to say go outside and just run around for hours and hours.
Yeah,
is beautiful. You know what I mean? So they very much love the Wyoming lifestyle, because there aren't a lot of that distractions of the city, and they can literally go outside and climb trees and get into trouble that way. So it is kind of cool.
Be kids.
That's exactly right. They can be kids. Whereas my 13-year-old, she's doing PowerPoint presentations and giving me business proposals. I'm like,
you're in more trouble than you think, Alek.
Yeah, I'll look at your numbers to see if your numbers are right, and I'll dissect it from there. I'll tell you why I won't invest in your company. How about that?
Oh, that's too funny.
Oh man,
so pretty awesome. Yeah, good times though.
That's great. Well, thank you for taking the time to meet with us today.
Yeah,
just through things. It's good to hear what you're up to. That's your family. It's all good, man.
Thanks,
we don't do enough of it.
No, I really loved when you guys first got this out and how it's just progressed, and I just really tip my hat to YouTube for making it happen, man. So this is a beautiful thing. It's allowed me to reflect back a lot more about the mission, reflect back with my companions and my mission presidents, and just the incredible time that I had as a young, just 20-year-old, it's funny because being 20 on the mission now would be like you're an old man, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I was 20 when I went out, and I loved every second of it. It was hard, it was challenging, but wow, what a foundation it laid. And so I appreciate you two for putting this together, which selfishly allows me to reflect on those things once again, and stir up some of those memories that I kind of forgot about. And so I appreciate you guys, and thank you so much for doing this, man. It's a really, really cool thing.
Thank you. We love you, brother.
Yeah,
Yep,
we love you.
guys too,
And,
man. Absolutely.
and don't forget, your referral is as good as any. Send it to your people that you're still in touch with, because
I will.
Mine and Jack's outreach to some is not as good as the famous Elder Gilmore, as President Vriens would say.
That's right. President Vriens. Love that guy. But yeah, I'll definitely I'll reach out to a lot of dudes and just tell them about it. I've had a ball. This has been
Great.
A lot of fun, just recounting all these memories and going back in time a little bit. So yeah, I'll definitely reach out.
Maybe if I get Karish to come on, I'll have you back as a guest host with him.
Yes, dude.
Fun, man.
Make that happen, because we have some stories, man. He and I, tell you what, there are some things we did there, like one quick story. So we went and we chopped in this area called Mini Bangladesh. Like there was no English anywhere, and we spent an afternoon, right? He and I, we went to like the most ghetto Muslim part of our area, and we got ripped by this old like Muslim guy. He's like, I can't remember what he said to us, but dude, like we were dumb doing that. I mean, we were just two kids walking around talking about Christ, giving out Book of Mormons to these people. Like I reflect back on that, I'm like, dude, we could have died that day. Like we were one stone throw away from getting like socked upside the head. You know what I mean? But it was fun. But yeah, if he comes on, I'd love to be a guest because we have some stories to tell.
All right, man. We'll definitely make it happen.
Cool. All right, fellas. Love you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Love you
Alek.
too.
Love you.
See ya.
All right. Take
Bye.
care.